So to start off, before you start streaming, right, you usually end up doing something, and that is getting rid of something else. And in this case, you might have heard of this concept of to cut the cord or cutting the cord or to be a cord cutter. Now, according to Wikipedia, that means with broadcast TV, cord cutting refers to viewers, subscribers, us, who canceled our subscription to what is actually referred to as multi-channel TV services available over cable or satellite or IPTV. So really what that's saying is those traditional cable packages or direct TV plan or dish plan that you had, where you would buy monthly service. Maybe you get 60 channels in the basic plan, 80 channels in the standard plan, and 100 or 120 channels in the premium plan, and you pay monthly for that. That's the traditional way, the old way of buying TV or video services. But now we have people doing it over the internet, and that's now what's referred to as streaming. And because we can stream and do things over the internet, that's opened up a whole new world of how to push out movies and TV shows. And that's really what streaming is all about. So if you think about streaming, you probably heard of things like Netflix or Hulu or Prime Video. And really what that means is just watching TV, whether live or recorded, on your TV, your computer, your mobile device, via any internet connection. And we stream content all the time, whether we realize it or not, like podcasts and movies, music and music videos. Anytime you're watching something, even just on YouTube on your phone, you're streaming something. Now, you might be streaming that content over your wireless provider's network, say AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, or if you live in Highline's network area at home, you might be streaming it over your phone, but over Wi-Fi on Highline's network. It doesn't matter how you're doing it, it's over the internet, so that means you're streaming. Now, one of the reasons you might be watching Streaming 101A is to say, hey, I know other people are streaming. Am I streaming? Should I be streaming? Well, let me tell you something here. In America alone, at least according to Consumer Insight surveys, last year alone, the average USA household had 6 streaming services that were being used in that home. That was over double the amount from just 4 years earlier in 2018. So this is increasingly popular. If you are part of an older generation, you might have grandkids who are in your home streaming content on their devices over your own internet network, for example. So why would we do this? Why are we switching to streaming? Why are we cutting the cord or becoming cord cutters? Well, the reality is it's cheaper. That's why. Because we can do this over the internet, we've got so many more competitors now, and that's bringing down costs. And so CNET, popular online publication that reviews technology, did an analysis, I believe, last year over 6 major cities. And they found that if you were paying for a premium cable TV package, along with an internet plan, you were paying about $200 a month, right? It's $2,400 a year. However, if you just wanted like a premium streaming package, and that might be with live television or a combination of streaming platforms, you're only paying about $60 for us, then you would need to add in the internet plan. And that's why we're all streaming, because we want to cut our costs. We want more options. We want to be able to have it on our phone, on multiple TVs. We want to be able to travel with our content, and we can do so for less costs than we're paying today. Now, look, I don't want to pick on the cable companies. There's really no need to, but we all know that those costs are just rising and rising every year. And quite frankly, it's not always their fault. There are a lot of fees that they get charged that they pass along to us. There are regional sports fees. They charge for set-top boxes. They charge for DVR services. Sometimes they even charge for remote controls. And the reason that they do this, or are forced to do this, is because they have to pay all of those channels, whether it's NBC, ABC, ESPN, the Food Network. They got to pay them for showing that content on their cable packages. And those channels, those companies, raise their prices every year, forcing them to raise their prices. So their market or their margin on that gets smaller and smaller. So the only way they can make money is by charging you for things like remote controls. And that's why we feel nickel and dimed, and that's why those prices continue to rise, which again is feeding the need for streaming services. Heck, DirecTV alone has its own streaming platform now. So think about that. It has a whole satellite network. So it can offer pay television via satellite, and it now has a streaming service essentially competing against itself because it realized it needs more affordable options. Now, to take a few of the big name streaming providers out there that we pay for, these are the big guys: Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max. It's now called just Max. But this is what you're looking to roughly pay, at least at the basic entry level, right? A month for access to that platform. And I'm going to go through this a little more in a minute, but you can get versions where you don't have to watch commercials and get some added features like maybe higher quality video or being able to watch it on more devices simultaneously for extra money a month. But this is obviously a dramatic difference than what we're used to paying for paid television. And so what we always ask people to do is figure out your own math, right? What are you paying at home? Just think about it. Pull out that bill, maybe compare it to the bill 13 months ago and see how much it went up, even though you're not really watching any more or getting any more value or any more channels out of that bill. And it begins to really make a compelling case to move to streaming. Something that's always also interesting to think about is that we often pay for these large packages, these cable packages, for channels that we don't even watch. Regardless of what year it's done, when people are surveyed, we don't even watch really 10 channels individually. So maybe you have, if you're a married couple, maybe you watch 8 channels and she watches another 8 channels, and combined you might watch 12 different channels. But individually, it's usually less than 10, but we're paying for 60, 80, 120 channels. Again, pushing the need and the reason we're benefiting from streaming, because we're really focusing on what exactly it is that we want and want to watch. Now, these, again, big players in the room: Netflix, Prime Video. It's going to be great talking about Prime here in a minute because many of us already get it, whether we realize it or not. And you'll notice here I have HBO Max, Max. That's because they keep changing their name, but Max is now HBO's, what was traditionally HBO, and then there was Cinemax, Max. Now they call their streaming platform just Max. There's Apple TV, which is the device. We're really going to get into devices in the next session, but Apple TV has its own content called Apple TV Plus, which gives you access to movies and TV shows and original content paid for, produced, and put out by Apple itself. And that's increasingly becoming very popular as well. So what are the popular streaming services? Well, just from a year ago today, Netflix has been king. They've been king for years. They're found in over, almost 2/3 of American homes have a Netflix subscription. So if you don't have one or have never had one, probably something to try out. They usually offer a free month or a heavily discounted first month with no obligation. You might want to figure out what it is that has made Netflix so popular over the years. But next up is Prime Video. So over half of US homes have Prime Video. And the real reason is not so much that half of Americans wanted Prime Video, is that we're paying for Amazon Prime for the delivery service. But Prime has a lot of benefits. It's not just the free shipping or 2-day shipping. Part of what's included is Amazon Prime Video. A lot of original content, award-winning original TV shows and movies being produced by and put out by Amazon. And then you can see the list here: Hulu, Disney Plus, and now HBO or Max, and the percents here. But then on the free side, so these are things that we would pay for, anywhere from $5 to $15 to $20 a month. On the free side, YouTube, Peacock has a free version and a paid version, and so forth. You'll notice we probably all use YouTube at one time or another, have the app on our phone. You can even have the app sometimes pre-installed on smart televisions. Anytime you watch a video on that YouTube app on your TV, you're streaming content. Another really important change happening out there is that live sports is moving in force to streaming, in particular football, but it's not just football anymore. But to give you an example, football is one of the main drivers for why we still want to pay for subscription services and watch live television. I mean, I can watch the show I want to watch whenever I want to watch it, but I got to watch the game when the game's on, right? Because otherwise I'll hear about it. So we always want to watch sports when it's live. And so that's driving these platforms, streaming platforms, to get that live sports content. For example, you may know that Thursday Night Football is only available now on Amazon Prime through Amazon Prime Video. YouTube just this year got NFL Sunday Ticket. DirecTV had that package for some 3 decades, 30 years. This is the first year it's not been with DirecTV. It's now on YouTube, which means you can watch it anywhere so long as you have an internet connection. And maybe $200, $300, or $400, but you can watch it anywhere that you want. And to give you an example of sort of how YouTube promotes this live sports, in this case, all out-of-market Sunday football games, it tells you can watch it on any TV, anywhere you like, as long as it's connected to the internet. No 2-year contracts required, at least in the case for NFL Sunday Ticket. And then you can add even additional content where you can just watch, you have a channel specifically focused on when teams are in the red zone, and you can add that to the package. It really is quite impressive. Now, one thing I'll cover with some of the platforms are sort of the internet needs that you might need to stream, because you do need an internet connection. And what I'll tell you, that what YouTube says is that you need a minimum of 3 megs, but ideally 7+ megs for high quality video. Now, in anticipation—
Hey, James, I want to go ahead and interrupt you here and say these minimums are not realistic.
They really aren't. And I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, you'll notice this through a lot of different platforms, as they'll say, you need at least this much, and you think, well, I'd have that much, right? So I don't need to worry about it. But the reality is that we're doing lots of things at the same times on our network, right? I might be watching the game, but my computer's doing something else. My phone's updating in the background. The Ring doorbell's catching someone driving by. My wife or my kids are watching something on their device, right? My kids gaming upstairs while I'm watching the game. So while this may be the minimum for that particular activity by itself in a vacuum, we don't live in vacuums, thankfully. And there's lots of things going on at the same time. So number one, keep that in mind. But anticipation of just this session, I'm watching NFL Sunday Ticket this weekend over YouTube on my 75-inch television. And I thought there was this button, a little image down at the bottom, and it literally said "For Nerds." And so I clicked on it, and it showed me how much of my internet connection was being used for that football game. I was watching the Broncos win, and it was using 68 megs a minute. And it was kind of fluttering anywhere between 68 and 69, 67. But that's a lot higher than 7+, which is what they say on their own website. So I'd say keep that in mind. But there's something great, because you guys live in Michigan, likely are already Highline customers, and they offer gigabit internet. In fact, that's really the standard plan. So with gigabit internet, you're going to be able to stream all you want to your heart's content. But I'm glad you brought that up again, Tanya, because Netflix itself says you really only need 5 meg, maybe 25 meg for high definition or 4K content. But then again, that's by itself in a vacuum. We're never by ourselves in a vacuum. There's always things going on that we don't even realize with devices connected to our networks. And so you're never going to prepare for that minimum. You really want to have, because in the end, what do you really want? You want everything to work, right? You want to press the button and it plays. You want to say play and it streams. You don't want to see pixelation. You don't want to see hourglasses turning or circles turning, right? You just want everything to work. And with Highline, with gigabit fiber internet, everything's going to just work. But if you're not a Highline customer, or you're wondering, do I have the bandwidth that I need? Do I have the speeds that I need? Obviously, there are websites like speedtest.net, fast.com, where you can go to test your internet connection. Highline has their own app, And in that app, you can also run a speed test, which is great. So you can find out what is my internet speed actually on my Highline network. And that's always a great benefit. And of course, you want to have great Wi-Fi, right? Because normally our devices are connected via Wi-Fi. It is great if you can connect your television, and we'll cover this in the next session, directly with Ethernet. But if you can't do that, Wi-Fi 99 times out of 100 is great, but you still want to have a good Wi-Fi connection. So again, speaking of speeds, there's one thing you should know about Michigan, particularly in the UP and thumb now with Highline. But if you look at median speeds in the US, there's just this past October, for the mobile service anyway, people are getting 103, about 104 meg, which means half the country is getting somewhere faster than 104, and the other half is getting somewhere slower than 104, but that's the median. On the fixed broadband side, so that's people getting internet service, whether it's through cable, for example, or fiber optic, they're getting 215 meg. So half of the country is getting faster than 215 and half is getting less than 215. But again, with Highline, their standard plan is 1 gigabit. That's 5 times faster than the median speed throughout the country, blowing away the experience that most Americans are getting. So again, Michiganders in the UP and thumb, you're really sitting pretty when it comes to streaming.